are back.
Back
It is
indeed.
it's a good New Year so far. Apart from stories like Paul Haggis getting plowed under with Me Too. That's I did not see that one coming.
You know, particularly because of the kind of work that he does.
Yeah.
It seems like such a sort of sensitive.
Well,
and you know what? I'm being overly broad right now.
Yeah.
But you know.
Yeah, but man, that one blindsided me.
You know.
That blindsided me, and that's not just a groping thing. I mean, there's some serious allegations there. So
Yeah.
that's
And of course, the Kathleen Kennedy group,
which is starting to
produced
kind of take shape
with
now.
Anita Hill at the
Yeah.
head.
Yeah.
I did just the other day, right before we recorded this. USC study came out again. Number
Yeah.
of women directors, other directors, but women
Yeah.
directors. And the numbers had actually gotten worse.
Yeah, of course
Which
they've
is
gotten worse.
absolutely astounding to me. It doesn't seem like it because we see these sort of premier women, Patty Jenkins, Ava
Yeah.
DuVernay, and a few others
And
whose
they're-
names are big in the media right now. So it feels like this thing has happened.
See, this is the thing. You and I've talked about this before. Is that the studios are not like a giant cesspool of horribly bigoted, sexist, racist people.
No.
They are a giant cesspool of people who are terrified of doing something that will cost them their job. So they operate on fear and risk aversion. And they just don't. They look for any reason to not take a chance.
Yeah.
Any reason.
Which is odd, particularly given that there is more opportunity to do something new now than there ever has been.
Yeah.
That was a perfectly reasonable sort of position post. After the corporate takeover period,
Yeah.
when Gulf Western first came in,
Yeah.
took over, Western
Late
government,
60s.
late 60s, right? That became a reasonable sort of thing to do because bottom lines became the point.
Yeah.
There's a stock evaluation that's going to be had at the end of this quarter, and whether or not I work here depends on what happens there. As opposed to if you were some guy who was running your studio, that wasn't happening.
No.
So you have this long period now of where that has been the necessary thing. It really isn't necessary anymore, though. They can actually cut that out. Creativity is actually what will, in fact, pay your bills today.
It is, but good luck. They want franchises.
Yeah.
They want to know that if I check this checkbox, that I can get 20 movies and $3 billion worth of toys every year and video games, and they need to know that that's going to fuel a certain mathematical equation, and it's unfortunate. It's going to change. I mean. But it's not as obvious a change as I think a lot of people think.
Well, I do think that the Netflix, the Amazon-y, although these
Sure.
things are being gobbled up and sort of brought in underneath of it. But nevertheless, those places, just by virtue of their existence, is forcing some change.
Yeah.
I'm not sure it's to the better with respect to major studio releases, because major studio releases are going to turn into some of these big things that we're going to be talking about today when we get to the new movies.
Yep.
Because that's gonna be where they feel like they can do the thing that you just said.
Yeah.
You make a $200 million movie and hope for a $1.5 billion return.
It is.
That is a wacky business model.
Yeah.
But what are you gonna do?
Well, so let's dig into a lot of these New Year's Blu-rays and DVDs. Got a giant pile of anime that came in after our holiday shows. So let me just get through some of that right at the top of the show. There's some really interesting stuff here from the Made in Japan line. That's MAIDEN, Made in Japan line. That is typically distributed by Section 13. Got a really interesting new series here called Kisdoom R Engage Planet, and this is an alien invasion thing, but it's interesting. It takes place in the very, very near future, 2031, which feels like that'll be here in a heartbeat. Seriously, that'll be ridiculous. My daughter's gonna be. You and I'll be alive. We'll be probably getting surgery for some reason. But
hopefully, we be rebuilt by some sort of some technology that comes out of that movie.
Anyway, so there's this new life form that becomes a threat, and they've got to form a specific organization to combat it. And it feels a little bit like a lot of things we've seen before, alien invasion movies, or even Alien Nation, or even the thing on Netflix right now.
Stranger.
No. The Will Smith thing.
Oh, Bright.
Bright. Thank you.
Where
How
they
could I
take
never remember
which
that?
is well, it's a completely wacky movie, but yeah,
Yeah.
strange.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, it's all in a tiny little bit of that. It gets into an interesting place. It's worth watching. Yeah, this is 26 episodes plus the OVA stuff that was never aired on television, Japanese or American, on 4 discs. KISSDUM. Anyway, Engage Planet. It's interesting. Then we also have Ninja Nonsense, which is nonsense. It's just silliness. This is it is about a young ninja in training, a young girl who's a ninja in training, and it goes into all kinds of weird Pokemon-y areas and supernatural stuff, and it's mostly just kind of young adult, early preteen Japanese anime humor. It's okay. And in the same vein, strictly on DVD, not on Blu-ray, is Pokemon Advanced Challenge, the complete collection. The first season. I have completely lost track of all of the different Pokemon shows. I am told there are quite a few, and that they are all basically the same. And don't try to make sense of them. The kids that watch them don't even make sense of them. They just
That began as a game, right? Like little actual cards, playing
Yeah.
cards,
Yeah.
and then thus everything else.
And that takes us to Pokemon Indigo League Season 1, Champions Edition. I have been told that these 52 episodes, likewise, really don't make any sense, and don't try too hard. Anyway, yeah, I mean, if you're 8, 9, 10, 11, and you're still into Pokemon, you really don't care what series came before which one. This is actually a Blu-ray, and it's lovely, and it comes with documentation and all kinds of other fun little extras on it. You get a 64-page manga sampler. You get a recipe card, complete Pokérap. It's strictly for people who are into the whole Pokemon thing. I still try. I didn't get it at the time.
Yeah.
Don't really get it now.
Yeah.
Sailor Moon fans will be very excited. The super popular Sailor Moon series gets Sailor Moon Crystal Season 3. This one they continue to really milk and exploit. The name of the Season 3 set is Death Busters Arc. And that makes sense when you get into it. Look, I realize the whole Sailor Moon thing is for many people terribly sexist, with the image of Sailor Moon, and she's very Barbarella-esque.
Yeah. What's the problem with this?
Exactly.
I'm not quite sure.
It belongs to a very particular kind of anime. You love it or you don't. I think it has its moments. Lots of really interesting extras here. The English language track here is very, very well done, and they have cast interviews. They did a lot of work to get really good voice talent to do the English language track. I would still recommend you watch it in the original Japanese, but the English language stuff is really, really good as well. And it's Sailor Moon. It's the ongoing saga. It's kind of like anime Barbarella. What do you want? To Love Ru, or To Love RU, the complete series, 64 episodes. This is from the Sente line of Section 13. Again, it's very Barbarella-esque. Boy, I'm not getting that word out very easily today.
Why would you?
I don't know. So it's a little space nymphs and bikinis and all that stuff. It's fine. It's not Sailor Moon, but it's fine. It certainly has its moments, and it means to harken back to that whole genre. Also, this I have seen enough of to know that I'm kind of warming to it. It is Cross-Ange, Rondo of Angel and Dragon. This is, let's say we step away from Barbarella and we get into a little bit more kind of sci-fi fantasy stuff, more kind of Game of Thrones-y, Lord of the Rings-y stuff. And it's fine. It's starting to grow on me. The animation is really, really good. And the world I'm beginning to make a little bit more sense of. So this is 25 episodes of Cross-Ange, Rondo of Angel and Dragon, the complete series. Familiar of Zero, complete series. 45 episodes plus the unaired OVA on 8 discs, also from Sente. The Familiar of Zero series is also one I have not watched enough of to make a whole lot of sense of. but it's fantasy. It's, if you like anime fantasy, give it a little bit of chance. You'll probably warm to it. You got to watch a lot of it though for it to really all kind of dovetail together and make sense. So make the commitment. D Gray Man. We've talked about this before too.
Yeah.
D Gray Man is actually really really cool, and this is well written stuff. It's exorcism, anime exorcism. It's got an interesting kind of quasi horror vibe to it. This is not on Blu-ray. This is only on DVD. This is season 3, part 2. We covered season 3, part 1, I think about a month and a half ago. So that continues the season 3 saga. Now getting into some Funimation stuff. We've got some pretty good Funimation titles here. Let's see which one I want to go with first. Okay, we've got... Actually, these two are better than the others. The most notable stuff here, Blu-ray and DVD combo packs of these two. One is Taboo Tattoo, complete series. Really, really awesome animation. Taboo Tattoo is really some of the best animation that you can find right now. The idea here is that the tattoos are kind of like these mystical like the tattoo comes alive. It's a mystical weapon, and in this whole kind of futuristic vigilante fantasy future, they basically empower people to become kind of superheroes. It's hard to explain, but it's actually it's a perfect recipe for animation. It's really really well done. It's beautifully drawn. The artwork is tremendous. If you want to see state-of-the-art anime, Taboo Tattoo, the complete series, is definitely worth checking out. And the Testament of Sister New Devils, Season 1.
I love that title.
Right? It's not bad. It gets into the whole high school fantasy thing again, which I tends to be a little bit tiresome at a certain point, monster fighting kids and teenagers, but it's what goes over well. It's Japanese teens, they enjoy that fantasy. So give it a look if that's your thing. The Testament of Sister New Devil, Season 1. It's amazing how much stuff is set in Japanese kind of schools, right? Where they wear the uniforms, and
it's a whole thing.
It's a whole deal. Psyche K, Seasons 1. Part 1 and part 2. I don't know. Normally they release these separately, like not on the same week. And I don't really understand. You literally season 1, part 1, season 1, part 2 is separately on the same week. Why not just make it single box set of season 1? Is it just so you can, I don't know, charge more? Whatever.
Buy it twice.
Anyway, I should point out that Funimation also now has their own digital copy system. So they come out with their own digital copies. These are not necessarily compatible with Ultraviolet or anybody else's digital copy system. So you just be warned. It's not the same deal, but it's its own proprietary deal. And Psyche K, The Disastrous Life of Psyche K, Season 1, Part 1 and 2. How do you even explain that? So it's high school again. It's about a psychic high school kid and all of the bizarre things that transpire in his life, and it gets pretty weird. The animation is fine. It's a little bit, I hate to call it cartoony because anime is a cartoon, but it's I don't know. It's okay. Gets into, I guess if I were in school in Japan, I'd probably make more sense of it. Let's see. Pull this one out. This is a really, really sweet box set and tremendous animation. Tales of Zestiria and the X. That's Zestiria. Tales of Zestiria and the X. This is fun. Kind of. What's the Ava DuVernay thing that's coming out soon?
Wrinkle in Time.
Wrinkle in Time.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So there's a kind of a Wrinkle in Timey vibe to this. It's beautiful animation, beautiful artwork, really, really good fantasy storytelling. Gets a little convoluted at a point. But otherwise, and I hate to say Lord of the Ringsy because it's not really. It's more Wrinkle in Time, or maybe splits the difference between the two. Anyway, Tales of Hysteria and the X, beautiful box set from Funimation. That one's really, really worth checking out just for the artwork alone. Really, really tremendous. And then we have a two-parter again, split. It's first season, but it's split into two parts. Iron-Blooded Orphans, which is a Mobile Suit Gundam spin-off, which is great. If you're a Gundam fan, you're going to love this stuff. It's the artwork's tremendous. The whole space-going giant robot sci-fi thing. It's the Gundam world. If you followed Gundam, you're going to know exactly what this is. Iron-Blooded Orphans expands that world in a really, really cool way. Animation keeps getting better and better. Parts 1 and Part 2, Blu-ray DVD combo packs, absolutely worth checking out. Especially if you're a Gundam completist, you're gonna love that stuff. And then rounding things out, we've got a couple here that are this is really silly stuff. Love Live and New Game Season 1, Love Live. This is just look.
It's cute.
It's cute. It's just big-headed girls with big eyes and cute pixies. This is like for 5 and 6 year olds. Or grown men who have some kind of a strange fetish or something.
Oddly, that it works for one or the other.
It works for one or the other. It's like bronies, right? Gosh, it's so strange. Anyway, these come with Funimation digital copies, and if you like that world, look, where they stick their tongues out and they go cross-eyed and they make those, they make all those noises. Cute little girls. It's boys will not watch this. Boys will not watch this. This is just for like preteen high school girls. And then lastly, for slightly older age, is Kitty Girl and. That's it, just Kitty Girl and. The complete series. This is maybe this skews a little bit older once you've graduated from those other ones, or if you're again a grown man with some kind of a weird fetish, you'll get into this little sci-fi teen girl thing. It's like little mini teen Barbarella. This is Barbarella training series.
A lot of Barbarella in this episode.
Yeah, and then part 1, episodes 1 through 12 of Trickster, which is really interesting animation and really interesting writing. And this is from the same people that made Real Life. And it's just the artwork is great. The writing is really interesting. Everything about it is really it's very noir. It's very kind of detective noir done anime style, and with some very intriguing characters. So I would recommend checking this out. It's Trickster, Part 1, Episodes 1 through 12, Blu-ray DVD combo pack from Funimation. This is some interesting things they do with the animation now. Anime is really kind of doing some stuff merging computer graphics and some animation. They're getting some really interesting kind of fusion out of that.
I like it best when the hand-drawn stuff is supported by computer-generated, very detailed backgrounds.
Which is what this does, yeah.
Which is always extraordinary. All the way back to Akira for that kind of stuff. You want to knock out some newbies?
Let's do it.
So we have the 4K American-made Tom Cruise.
Yep.
As well as the Blu-ray here, right? So we got both of those.
American-made, yeah.
Yeah. The big difference being obviously the 4K is 4K, but the 4K comes with a whole lot more stuff in terms of bonus features too. Although there are bonus features on the DVD, the Blu-ray DVD as well. But more on the other side. So it just sort of depends on what you're into at this moment. If you're 4K and you want a little bit more, go over there.
Yeah.
If the 4K thing sort of bugs you, the way you and I talked about this last time, it kind of bugs me a little bit. So, I haven't fallen into that world yet. This movie, Tom Cruise, based on a true story, 1980s, Barry, whatever the guy's name was, sort of stumbled into being a pilot for both the CIA and Pablo Escobar.
He's the worst kind of double agent because... he's sort of I guess he's the best kind of double agent because he's really in it for himself.
Yeah, and making money. Look, this movie is kind of Bird on a Wire.
Yeah.
I mean, it's funny that they started making these movies in the 80s. This one's set in the 80s.
Yeah.
They started making these in the 80s.
Yeah.
And did it through, and then they sort of stopped. But Tom went back and made one. Doug Liman, his career has, since Go...
All over the map.
Since Swingers.
Swingers.
All over the freaking map.
All over.
And some of it not as good as others of it, but what are you going to do?
Mr. and Mrs. Smith with Pitt and Angelina. Yeah, that's still probably my favorite of his.
So I Go. I think I'm a big fan of Go.
Go's good. Go's a good movie.
I was nuts about this movie, man. Brad's Status, Ben Stiller movie, that I just thought was absolutely extraordinary. I was Mike White directing.
Yeah.
And I really wish more people had paid attention to it, particularly Ben Stiller's performance in this movie. And I just love the way it's put together.
I had the feeling during our awards voting, and they didn't really push this. And this is a thing, you know. Hopefully, you don't need to tell any of the distributors push your movies with the critics groups, but sometimes it's almost like they don't trust their movies because they didn't really push this at us,
you know,
and they should have. Like this is one. If you had a reception, have Ben Stiller out to a reception. I hate to say that gets you traction, but it does.
It does. Of course it does.
It does.
Particularly if there are going to be people like you and me there who are talking it up a little bit, you know, and we don't feel like we're out there talking in the wind.
Mike White is so prolific and such an you know, I mean, he's originally an actor, but he's a good director. He's a really good writer, and he just keeps cranking them out. And I thought there's a lot of wisdom in this. This has what I always love in good writing. This has some of those scenes where two people are talking. And bad writing will be one person lecturing another person, and then you, as the audience, are supposed to receive that lecture as if you are the person being lectured and go, you know what, he or she has a point. This has good writing where one person will say, bada bing, and you go, she's got a point. And then the next person will say, well, bada ba, and you go, but you know what? He's got a point too. And it goes back and forth, and it ping-pongs, and you find yourself really wrestling with the 2 points of view because they both have similar validity, and I love that. And that's
particularly
good
when
writing.
they are like sort of disparate characters. The son here, played by Austin Abrams.
Yeah.
And, you know, and Ben is playing his dad. He's taking them on the college tours,
Yeah.
you know. And Ben is going through all kinds of sort of issues that you go through, a sort of midlife thing. I did that already.
Yeah.
But I connect to it very deeply. And it was a moving film. You know what's weird about this movie that I thought? Brad's Status is only Mike White's second feature film as a director.
True.
And because he had, as a writer and as an actor, and, you know, Miguel Arlita and all those kind of films, in my mind, he had simply directed more films, and he directed a television series, some TV.
Yeah.
But only Year of the Dog, which is all the way back in 2007, and this.
Yep. We've got Jackie Chan in The Foreigner, which I just want to like this so much, but I can't. Look, I love Jackie. I've met Jackie twice. One of the few times I've ever been starstruck by anybody. I don't even need to go there. I mean, I wrote a Jackie Chan book, so. Which I think you can probably get on Amazon for 12 cents now, maybe a penny.
Or $300. Subtle depends. You never know with those.
That's true.
Subtle, you know.
Anyway, this is, you know, gosh, it's just so problematic. So this tries to split the difference, and it's primarily Chinese financed, and that is largely the problem. So this is from STX Films, distributed by Universal, and primarily financed by Wanda and Huayi Brothers. So you get a movie that is basically about an Irish politician played by Pierce Brosnan, who is dealing with potentially rogue IRA elements and trying to settle up a political issue for, you know, where we don't want to get the Irish situation exploding again with you know, terrorists in Northern Ireland. Seems to be like a rogue former IRA group and all this stuff. And somehow you fold Jackie Chan into this because he's a Chinese immigrant and there's a tragedy that affects him very early in the film.
Arbitrarily.
Yeah. And so he goes on kind of a little death wish hunt, which interferes with Pierce Brosnan. Here's the giant problem with this, is that there's very little Jackie Chan, Pierce Brosnan shared screen time. And for giant chunks of this movie, you just lose one story in favor of the other. You're following Jackie, and you just lose the Pierce Brosnan thing. And then you're following Pierce Brosnan, you lose the Jackie thing. And you get the feeling like they were never able to really marry these two storylines in a competent way. It's too bad. It's really, really unfortunate. Martin Campbell, of course, who had done lots of Bond stuff with Pierce Brosnan, directs, and does a perfectly fine job. It's not his fault. I mean, the
movie cheats. The movie cheats in this way to me. Yeah. This movie would like to be a vehicle for Jackie Chan to play a sort of dramatic role.
Yep.
Right? So he's this sort of like guy who seems like an ordinary guy, but it's afraid to let him just literally be that guy.
Yeah.
So it gives him this deep operative background.
Yeah.
He has this hidden past as this guy who can do all the things that Jackie Chan can do. Well, you just cheated. And if you want this to be about
True.
sort of a drama about this thing,
Yep.
then don't make him a Chopsaki master.
Yeah.
Or conversely, just taking it, Liam Neeson it.
Yeah.
Where when we meet him, he is who he is.
Yeah.
And we know why he can do the things
Yeah.
that he can do.
The-
You can't cheat, man.
Don't give me the guy who's a short order cook and by the way, he
Yeah.
used to be special ops.
Yeah, because now you're cheating. Marshall, a perfectly fine movie, well made by Reggie Hudlin, with Chadwick Boseman playing Thurgood Marshall, young Thurgood
A
Marshall.
very specific episode from Marshall's career.
Yes,
when he was,
of an actual case.
Yeah, this is an actual single case. And what I really like about this, apart from, I mean, it's not a great movie, it's a fine movie. But what I really like about this is they get around this amazing hurdle in the story, which is that Chadwick Boseman goes down on this particular case and faces this good old boy judge who effectively silences him because he doesn't have all the right state credentials and all this stuff. So, no, you are not allowed to talk. Your partner here, this podunk local attorney,
Pushes it all through Josh Gad.
got to push it through Josh Gad. So it's kind of like a Moses and Aaron thing going on, right? And normally you would think, well, how the hell am I supposed to enjoy a movie about Thurgood Marshall if he doesn't get to go in the courtroom and be Thurgood Marshall? And somehow they make that work.
Yeah, it's just in a certain amount, sort of. I mean, because Josh Gad is very, very good for one
Very
thing.
good.
Chadwick Boseman, whom I love, obviously Jackie
Chameleon.
42,
Chameleon.
James Brown. And that. Now here's the thing.
Black Panther.
Black man. Here's the deal. Love me some Chadwick Boseman. Chadwick Boseman is a brown black man about the color of a Hershey bar. Thurgood Marshall,
Yeah.
our beloved Thurgood Marshall, was a light-skinned, cherubic black man with straight hair, a little bit closer to your color than to
True.
Chadwick Boseman's
Yes.
hue.
Yeah.
Look, guys, we had this problem with Nina, with the lovely Zoe who played Nina and Nina Simone. We have to, and I get it. I see what we're trying to do here. It's a good inclination, but you know what? Heavy D.
Yeah.
The iconic rap star from the 80s would have made more sense playing playing Thurgood Marshall than Chadwick Boseman. This is, black folks look at this, and the first thing we think is, that's not Thurgood Marshall. and it's because it's a perfectly natural thing. He does not look like, and I get it, if you're producing this film, and particularly if you're a white producer of this film, you don't want to be like, I'm not going to lock all these black people in the box of this sort of race. No. Now, on the other hand, what you want is a movie star.
Yeah.
Chadwick Boseman is a movie star.
True.
They cast him because he's a movie star. If we built a few more movie stars and there were one or two walking around or the correct hue, then we could, there's a kid who played Barack Obama in a movie called Barry.
Oh, yes. Sure.
There were two, actually. There's a movie called Southside with Me,
Yeah.
and then there was another movie called Barry,
Yeah.
Netflix film. Two different actors, both
Yeah.
played Barack Obama. Excellent portrayals.
Yeah. Southside with You especially. It's a
particular.
great performance, yeah.
And either one of those young men who were both sort of tall and obviously fair-skinned, because Barack Obama is biracial, et cetera, could have played this role.
That's a good point.
But they're not
Chadwick
quite
Boseman.
movie stars yet.
Well, that was the problem. That was why Sidney Poitier basically had to play every single black part for about 20 years,
Including Thurgood Marshall.
including. Yeah.
Oh, man.
So anyway, I mean, I like valid points, and I do like the film, but maybe it opens it up for some.
It's a good solid movie, though.
It's a good solid movie.
Can't say it's not
Good
a good solid movie.
Yeah.
The My Little Pony movie. What I liked about, I'm not a My Little Pony guy. The Bronies, we talked about the Bronies a second ago and all that kind of stuff. What I like about this movie is the voice talent, who are all just kicking butt here. Big names: Emily Blunt, Kristen Chenoweth, Liev Schreiber, Michael Pena, Sia, Taye Diggs, Uza Aduba, and Zoe Saldana.
It's great.
They spared no expense to infiltrate, to insinuate some really great voices and actors into the persona of these little ponies.
Still creeps me out.
Because it should. Of course it should creep you out. It should creep everybody out. What are you going to do? A lot of special features on this, on the Blu-ray.
One of my favorite films of the year, Battle of the Sexes, with Emma Stone and Steve Carell. The Bobby Riggs, Billie Jean King drama, which is as served up by the very, very wonderful filmmaking team who did, the husband and wife team who did Little Miss Sunshine. Valerie Ferris and Jonathan Dayton. I see Jonathan Dayton at the market all the time. I'm always trying to eavesdrop on him over by the dairy aisle and hope he'll drop a little nugget about something, but it never works. But anyway, Emma Stone and Steve Carell are terrific. And the story, which I thought I knew. See, this is why I like a movie like this more than I like something like, much as I admire them, but movies like Apollo 13 or Ali, or more recently,
Which one? A biopic?
the Ridley Scott.
All the money in the
All the
world
Money in the World,
with all
thank you.
its goofiness.
Yes. So I admire all those films, but I lived all those stories, right? I remember reading the headlines.
Particularly All the Money in the World, which
Particularly
was
All the Money in
here.
the World. It was here. I read the headlines. I followed them. You know, I kind of grew up with those stories. So those movies, as good as they are, don't give me anything that I didn't know. So Battle of the Sexes, I thought I was going to walk in and it'd be like, you know, what I remember this story. I remember the whole that I knew. It turns out I knew nothing about this.
And like you, first of all, I'm a tennis guy.
Yeah.
You know, I'm a lifelong tennis guy. For a brief moment,
play it.
in
I
high
just
school,
watch it.
I thought I could. When Andre Agassi was on that tour,
Yeah.
I'm looking. This guy's like 5'9" and kind of shaped like me.
Yeah.
You know, and he's kicking it. I'm like, I think maybe I can do this. Anyway, I was wrong about that. But nevertheless, I'm a big tennis guy. Certainly remember this episode deeply. While it was sort of going on, and they revealed some interesting stuff here about that relationship between Billie Jean and her then husband.
Yep.
Well, you know, the stuff is in the movie.
Yeah.
But quite fascinating. The nature of the tour. You know what the funny thing about that movie about that period?
Yeah.
Is that the very first sponsor for that women's tour was a cigarette.
Yeah,
Virginia
true.
Slims.
Virginia Slims. It's true. And people are smoking all
And
through the
they were
movie.
actually on the sideline smoking cigarettes.
And Sarah Silverman is great in this, by the way, as the sort of agent manager who runs the all the stuff.
I
on the
was
tour.
hoping people would pay attention to her.
Oh, she's
And
so
you know,
good.
around about now,
Yeah.
a little
She's
bit later.
really good. I mean, and here's the thing, and they fudge a lot of stuff, like the romance that Billie Jean King has with her
The hairdresser. Which there was a romance with a hairdresser,
but
which
it's not this woman.
but it's
This
not
one
that.
was never a hairdresser.
No.
You know, they fudge some facts, which is fine, for the sake of drama and expediency. But the thing is, it's a lot of people have ripped this because it's a little bit. It doesn't rip on Bobby. And
I just think that's unfair.
it's really unfair because Bobby Riggs was not a bad guy. Like when he declared himself a male chauvinist pig, that's not because he really was. It was a marketing ploy.
He was a hustler.
He was. That's it. That's
And,
it.
and the thing of it is, he was hustling for both sides.
He was.
He was hustling for Billy too.
Yeah.
What he basically said was, "I will be the clown.
Yep.
I may or may not beat you.
I will be the rodeo clown and your rodeo.
and you can be the king of the thing. Not that he threw the match.
No.
But this is what I know about Bobby Riggs. Bobby Riggs knew he couldn't beat Billie Jean King.
True.
Which is why Bobby Riggs never really tried to beat Billie Jean King. He knew he could. First of all, she was 25 years younger than him.
Yep.
And she played better than he did. He had been a wonderful tennis player, but he wasn't an idiot. And the reason why I know that Bobby knew that he couldn't beat
Yep.
Billie Jean King is because at 56, I played tennis with 30-year-old women who kicked my ass all the time. So, you know, he knew he couldn't beat
But he was nonetheless in his prime.
Yeah, no, he was a champion
Yeah.
amateur tennis player. Never made any money.
Yeah.
Interesting relationship with the son, Bill Pullman. And anyway, I just thought it was a really solid effort.
Good solid movie. And it's got a few little extras on it. Raw footage of Billie Jean's grand entrance and a couple other featurettes.
A lot of fun, and Emma's fantastic.
Yeah.
So, The Mountain Between Us. This movie, Idris Elba and Kate Winslet in this perfectly ludicrous movie. Mountain crashes. A plane crashes on a mountain. The two of them they get
my
stuck out there.
gosh.
The snow. This is just so nuts.
Yeah.
This movie got me.
Did it?
I'd be damned. It's just. I'm watching this movie and I'm fighting against it. I'm like, no, I'm not gonna go for this. I'm not gonna go. This movie just drew me in. Why? Because
Good actors.
good. They're just both so damn good.
They are.
And I mean, and even after like I think this it's a completely made up movie. It's not based on anything. After like 6 weeks on this frozen mountain, they look better. They're leaner. They're sexier.
There's a lesson here, and this is the kind of movie that would once upon a time have been made as a straight programmer in 1939 or
Oh, yeah.
1945 or 48 or even probably more. This is probably more like 1952.
Yeah.
Right. Like
Yeah.
Love Is a Many Splendored
Good
thing.
thing.
It's
Yes,
that
there you
it's
go.
that kind of a deal. Let's just get a hot dude and a gorgeous girl, and maybe they're both a little bit past their prime, but it's good because so's the audience that's going to go and pay full price to see them on opening weekend for at least a month.
Make it as romantic as you possibly can,
Kick it.
Put
There you
and do the smart thing, the thing that movie does. This movie does, The Mountain Between Us, is you end it happily.
There's no avalanche.
Yeah, no.
That buries them
this,
forever.
yeah, no, you end that
Yeah.
movie happy. I'm gonna give you the SWAT so I
Yeah.
can talk about Harry Dean's last movie, Lucky.
Yeah.
90 something. Harry made it to, and what are you gonna say? This movie is very solid to begin with. So whether or not it was would have been his last movie, it's just a very solid movie directed by John Carroll Lynch. It really is a movie that understands, whether they were thinking about it at the time, that this very well might be his last movie. I think there's something about Harry Dean's performance in this movie, and he was doing that. David Lynch is in this movie,
Yeah.
but he was also
He was in Twin Peaks. Yeah.
while he was doing
Final
this.
season.
So
The new season.
There's a sort of homage to
Yep.
to him in that. So I think that Harry Dean and everybody here was thinking, hey Harry, the clock's ticking. You got something you want to say? And Harry Dean said it, and he sang it, and goddamn, this is a good movie. And that's that. I was hoping that it would have been a little bit more talked about during
Yeah.
the awards season. But,
Yeah.
for whatever sort of maybe a little too melancholy. Tom Skerritt, Ed Begley Jr., Ron Livingston, solid movie.
And then SWAT, the misbegotten feature film version of SWAT with Samuel Jackson and Colin
Yeah.
Farrell. Michelle Rodriguez, LL Cool J, perfectly serviceable, average, run-of-the-mill action film directed by Clark Johnson. Nothing terrible about this. Neil Moritz, who produced it, is kind of one of those guys who just, kicks them out left and right. This has been on Blu-ray before. It's now out again from Mill Creek, originally released by Columbia Pictures. And it's got a couple of audio commentary tracks on it. There's nothing terrible about this film, but it feels like 2 episodes of the TV show,
Yeah.
kind of upgraded with a big budget and a bigger cast. I love.
It's a little blue. They can cuss a little bit, and that's about it.
And here's the thing: I love Colin Farrell. I think he is the most underrated actor. I think has he even had an Oscar nomination yet?
I don't think so. And he's sort of back now too.
He is.
With those the lobster.
Yeah.
And.
He's such a good actor, and he doesn't belong in these kinds of movies. He really doesn't.
Well, he had a moment there where when he first hit the scene after
Yeah.
that Joel Schumacher movie,
Yep.
Tigerland.
Tigerland.
And he was a thing, and he made a few bad choices. Played
Yeah.
Bullet in that version of
Daredevil. Yeah.
big movies, and he got paid. I kind of get that,
Yeah.
you want to get paid, and then he sort of, and then with In Bruges,
Yeah.
he sort of reappeared, and since then he was pretty much solid as a rock.
And he's done so many interesting things. I mean, he's a little bit like Jim Caviezel. He's a really good actor who just floats through these films, and you sometimes forget how good he can be. This is kind of like Miami Vice. They went and got Colin Farrell and stuck him in a big budget remake of an old TV show because he's just got that face. But he deserves better. Anyway, SWAT, perfectly acceptable. 2 audio commentaries. I can't rip on it, but I can't really recommend it either. Docs or foreign? What do we want to dive into?
Why don't you jump over to the foreign?
Okay, I'll knock out some foreign films here. We've got the Best Actress winner from the Locarno Film Festival, Happy Hour, by Japanese director Ryosuke Hamaguchi. This film just after Sachi Tanaka won Best Actress at the Locarno, this thing just sort of vanished. And it didn't really get a theatrical release. It just kind of fell off of everybody's radar, and that's really too bad. It's a really, really good film. It's Japanese movies are typically not female centric. It's still a very, very patriarchal society. So when you do get them that deal with the lives and the experiences of women in Japan, it's something to pay attention to. And this is just one of those multiple life, multiple experience tapestries set in Japan. Takes place in the city of Kobe, which is just a relatively small city in Japan. And it's really poignant, and it's very well written, and it's just beautifully acted. And I hope you go out and check it out. It's a really good film. It's called Happy Hour by Ryosuke Hamaguchi. Definitely give it a look. And then a movie that I absolutely love, After Love by Joachim Lafosse. This is a French film with Bernice Bejo and Cedric Kahn. Such an interesting movie. Essentially, it's about a couple they've separated. I don't think it's clear whether or not they've divorced, but they've separated. They have two daughters, and they split time with the daughters. They don't get along well, and it is about a. I'm not going to give anything away here. It is about the unusual uh, post split up arrangement that they have, and I'm not going to say anything more because you need to see the film. But there's a very interesting arrangement that they have, and it's a bit contrived, but it's contrived in order to take a really penetrating look at a relationship in deterioration, how it affects kids, how it affects the people. It's photographed in that and directed in that beautiful kind of French New Wave way, where you will watch an entire scene transpire for like 5 minutes before you realize there hasn't been a cut. And the camera hasn't even moved apart from the just being panning back and forth, where they will stage everything in the kitchen and then in the adjacent bedroom, and all the camera does is pan, and it will pan and it'll back and forth, and it'll pan back and forth, and the action is so well blocked and so organic and so natural, and the actors are interacting in such a normal way that it takes you like after 5 or 6 minutes you go, they haven't really had a close. There's been no cuts. There's no close-ups. There's no cuts. It's almost like I'm just sitting on the couch watching these people live their lives.
Although he would never move
beautiful.
his camera, the sense that you get is a sense of an Ozu film.
Very much, very much.
Yeah.
It's really it's very, and that amplifies the emotions even more. It's really beautiful. Then we have Adele Haenel in The Unknown Girl. You'll probably you know her from a lot of things. Adele Haenel has just beautiful French features and those just piercing eyes. She's in BPM right now, which is the French contender for the Academy Awards, which I do not think made the final list. Did BPM make the final short list of 15? It didn't.
No.
Yeah, it was a mistake to even put that up. But still, she's amazing. And The Unknown Girl, she's just amazing in it. This is from the Dardenne brothers, one of their lesser films, I would say, but she is still great in it. And she plays a young doctor at a clinic, and it is there's a particular case that involves an African woman who needs to be treated at this clinic, and she has how do I even explain this without giving this away? So there's a case of a young African woman, and she needs to be treated at the clinic, and it deeply affects how this young doctor regards herself and her career and her profession and her calling. It's a really interesting psychological journey that becomes kind of a mystery, and it goes into really interesting places. The Dardennes are. I've always been hit and miss with them. If it's something like Rosetta, I can't stand it. Something like The Child, I love. I don't know how to even explain that.
Yeah.
Half their films I really love, and half their films I find to be pretentious. This is on the positive side. 4 Days in France by director Jérôme Raybeau. This is on Blu-ray from Cinema Guild. And this is a very, very sweet, delicate film, like you would have expected maybe in the 70s. It's a gay romance, and it has it's sort of about the directions that love has taken in the digital era, in the era of Grindr in particular. And it's not it doesn't have to be specifically gay. What this says about relationships, it just happens to be set on a gay relationship. But it applies as much to men and women and heterosexual relationships as it does to gay relationships. So,
that's a really thoughtful film.
It's a very thoughtful film. It's very nicely put together. It's very, very delicate, and has some really good extras. Got a short film by Jérôme Raybeau. Some, just the raw rushes and deleted scenes, and an essay as well. Very good. two from First Run Features. We have The Stopover by Delphine and Muriel Coulin, which is primarily about the trauma faced by female soldiers, specifically dealing with a group of French soldiers that stop in Cyprus on their way back from service in Afghanistan. And it's really pretty impressive. It's really an impressive film by Delphine and Muriel Coulin, sisters. Really well performed, beautifully made, as so many French films are. And then The Summer of All My Parents by the filmmaker known as Diastem, just one word.
A nice little thriller.
Yeah. This is a cool little thriller about a couple of sisters, teenage sisters, who are dealing with. They go back and forth between their parents who are divorced, and one of them is attracted to a boy who is not quite good for her, and from there it turns into, it's very interesting stuff. It's a good solid little kind of minor French thriller. So that's from First Run Features, and then lastly, three terrific titles from Kino Lorber. In their, what I hope is going to be an ongoing Lina Wertmuller collection. Seven Beauties, Fernando and Carolina, and Summer Night. All are terrific films. Seven Beauties is significant because it's the first time that a woman was ever nominated for Best Director at the Academy Awards.
Yep.
And
Lina there have only been about 3 since. Something like that, right? Not many.
I think one.
One other?
I think Hurt Locker is the only.
Catherine.
Bigelow.
Yeah.
I think she's the only one since. I don't think
in my mind, Jane Campion was nominated, but maybe
Jane Campion was nominated.
Yeah,
she was nominated, did not win.
Maybe for piano or something.
So yes, so it was Hurt Locker was the first win.
Yeah.
Okay. First win. In any case, Seven Beauties is a great film. It is amazing. It's a decent Blu-ray. Could probably be better, but it's really a tremendous film, and it has a wonderful essay by Alison Anders among the bonus features, it's just very, very telling. The other two films, Fernando and Carolina and Summer Night, are also very good. Summer Night is definitely the better of them. It's just a fun comedy. It's got a booklet essay by Simon Abrams and some trailers, and then Fernando and Carolina is. A lot of people love it. I think it dates a little poorly. It's also a comedy. Simon Abrams also did an essay for this, but it's okay. But still, if you're a Wertmuller completist, you should get all three.
Yeah. Documentaries?
Yeah, let's do the docs.
I'll start on these top two, if you don't mind. The first one is a film called Whose Streets We Will Not Go Quietly. Whose Streets. So this is it's
a good doc.
It's a very, very good doc, and full disclosure, very personal documentary to me. It's about the aftermath and the killing of Michael Brown. Michael Brown, of course, killed in the St. Louis suburb of Ferguson. I am from St. Louis, as you know. Literally lived in Ferguson. Literally lived in the complex, the Canfield Green apartment complex that Michael Brown lived in. Literally 30 years ago, more than 30 years ago, 35 years ago, Bridget and I lived in that complex. 35 years ago, we lived in that complex.
Wow.
Literally drove right through that intersection every day where that boy's body lie dead for 4 hours after he was killed. Drove through that intersection every day. And therefore, know in my bones that the city of Ferguson, and by extension the city of St. Louis, certainly over a long period of time, is exactly the city that represented in this documentary. Yeah. I understand.
I remember you and I talked about
that. We talked about this very deeply. Yeah. One of the reasons why, in 1989, my wife and I moved to L.A. is because we couldn't take it anymore.
Yeah.
We just had to get out of the sort of Midwest South area, because even in the late 80s it was, and then all of that obviously carries on and over and right through this set of events. So this film is a reflection of that. Debut film for both of the young directors, Sarah Foley-Yan and Damian Davis, and a very, very powerful film, mostly on the streets. For me, striking to watch this movie and see, and I go home all the time, so I spend a lot of time there and see these places and these people, and a certain amount of pride wells up, I will admit, in watching my people push back. Secondly, I want to talk about this film, the Pulitzer at 100, the Pulitzer Prize, of course.
Yeah.
The Pulitzer Prize, of course, originated by the Pulitzer family, Pulitzer being the publishers of the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, of course, among other things. So the Pulitzer Prize was always a big thing that sort of loomed large and in the zeitgeist of my life as a kid. This is a neo movie because it's about and told by and speaks to a number of folks who won the Pulitzer Prize, and great voices reading for some of the folks who have passed on and talking about what some of it meant to them. So you get to hear from Liev Schreiber and just a whole bunch of folks, Michael Chabon and Toni Morrison and all of these people who won the prize over the years. I have mixed feelings about the Pulitzer Prize.
I do too.
Just as a thing in general,
It's. I mean, I feel a little bit about it the way I feel about the Nobel, which is I'm glad that it exists, but there's a certain bias that is inherent, and when they deviate from that bias, I'm always very happy and I celebrate. But they don't deviate from that bias often enough.
Yeah. Well, look, you can't. Again, in St. Louis, growing up, watching that award come out every year for years and years and years, and very seldom seen, occasionally, but very seldom seeing brown folks.
Yeah.
Very seldom, for one thing, I mean, it's so internecine. It's all about Americans mostly.
Yeah.
As if, Egyptians and
it's true.
So, all of that. So, but nevertheless, one appreciates the Pulitzer Prize.
Yeah. Yep. DOA, a rite of passage. If you know punk, if you like punk, you apparently know this documentary. This is a famous punk history documentary, primarily centering around the 1978 Sex Pistols tour in the United States. This is from MVD, the music video distributor people. This is a new special collector's edition with gobs of special features that just go on and on and on and on. You're going to love this. If you are a music history person, you don't have to be a punk person, because I'm not a punk person, but I do love a good music documentary. And I should point out, one of my favorite films of the year, not just favorite documentaries, but one of my favorite films of the year, is Long Strange Trip, the 4-hour-long documentary about the Grateful Dead. Yeah. I don't even like the Grateful Dead, but I love that movie. And this is a really good movie too.
Yeah,
so.
You got the Clash and the Dead Boys, and there's all kinds of music.
Yeah.
The movie's from 1981. This is not a new movie.
Generation X. This is an old movie. Generation X, back when they had Billy Idol.
1980 maybe. Yeah.
A bit before Billy Idol became Billy Idol. Before he kind of really exploited it all. The Dead Boys, Clash, and Iggy Pop, and everybody's in here. So it's a really good film. By the way, the Billy Idol. I have a Billy Idol story, as long as you reminded me. So, when I used to work for Air France a million years ago, Billy Idol was one of the many people who would come through, and you always paid attention to the celebrities, whether it's Diane Lane or Jerry Lewis or whoever it was. So Billy Idol came through at one point and went up to the first class lounge and didn't sit on any of the furniture. Just chose to sit on the floor, and it became a thing, and everybody was really concerned that he was sitting on the floor. And I remember this very. This is the kind of the counterpoint to when Jerry Lewis went to the first class lounge and started singing to everybody just spontaneously, and scared the daylights out of my friend Sandrine, who didn't know how to respond to it. But nobody was complaining, so who cares? And Billy Idol just came and he just sat on the floor, and eventually whoever was running the lounge walked up to him and just said, Is okay, because you can sit on the chair over there. There's like lots of chairs you can sit on. Is there a problem? And he just said no. That was it. He was sitting on the floor, man. No, I just like sitting on the floor, like sitting on your floor.
Billy Allen,
that was so funny.
Man after my own.
Yeah,
name's there. The Settlers. This is a very compelling doc about the Jewish settlers in the West Bank. More or less the first one.
Yeah.
That sort of just goes in there and hangs out, fly on the wall.
It's a good movie.
And very moving. The 6-Day War, 1967, the West Bank.
And I covered this on Film Week, and I remember watching this. It still sticks with me. Because it gets to the root of the problem, which is an intractable problem. Yeah. And this film does not pretend to have any answers. No. It doesn't say, here's the problem and here's what you need to do to fix it. It doesn't. It just says this is an intractable problem, but I at least want you to understand that there's a human face, that these are people, that these are individuals. And however you feel about the settlements, you do walk away from this understanding that these people have a point of view, and that they are deeply religious, and they're not going peacefully. They're
It's
not.
not, it's not about crazy.
It's not about crazy.
It's as easy to just put it all in the box of just something
It's not.
crazy.
It brings home what a deeply troubling problem this is, and how intractable.
Well, a lot
it
of
is.
history. A lot of history.
A lot of history. Yeah, it's good.
Julian Schnabel, A Private Portrait. Julian Schnabel, of course, the director of one of my favorite films of all time, The Diving Bell and the Butterfly.
Yeah.
Of course, Julian was quite a prolific artist, fine art artist, painter, and sculptor. Well before he became a director of popular films. Anyway, he's sort of always been making films. This literally is a portrait of his entire sort of life as a public person, which goes back quite a long ways and encompasses a great many very interesting people. So in this film, we see people like Basquiat talking about Julian Schnabel, which is an interesting thing in and of itself. So Cohen Media Group film, we've done some work for them on occasion. In terms of, but this is really neat. So check it out. I'm a big Julian Schnabel fan. I wish he would make more movies.
He should. He really should. Santoala by Andrew Becker and Daniel Mehrer. Santoala from Oscilloscope. This is on Blu-ray. This is a very disturbing documentary. This is about a Dutch couple, a very kind of, very progressive, sort of quasi-hippie Dutch couple who want to get back to the earth, back to roots, and they basically go to set up kind of a farm, kind of a co-op-y kind of farm in this small Spanish village of Santoala, where nobody lives anymore except for one family. Now, this sounds like a setup to a horror film, and it kind of is, because eventually you get this feud going with the one family. I don't know how you have two families occupying a whole village. There isn't enough room for everybody. Like, everyone else has moved away. It's a depressed part of Spain, but this one family is still there. They're the old ones, with the evil eye, right? One of the, as if you didn't need anything else, one of the sons is mentally handicapped. So there's a Lenny thing going on, right? It becomes like a real life mice and men thing. And as soon as you're interviewing the son, and I'm like, Lenny, I know where this is going. So know where this is going. Anyway, at a certain point, the Dutch couple, the guy disappears. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm not giving anything away by telling you Lenny killed the bunny. Yeah. Okay. This is. If you've seen you don't even have to have read Mice and Men or seen the movie. You just have to have seen the Bugs Bunny cartoon with the abominable snowman saying, "I love my little bunny rabbit." They love him and stroke him and stroke his bill. Wait a minute, bunny rabbits don't have bills. You know where this is going. Anyway, it's a very disturbing movie, but it's true. It all happened. And it gives you the whole ugly story. Oscilloscope really kind of kills it with this one. It's very good. And then just get through my little stack of docs here real quickly. Aviva Kempner made a really interesting film called Rosenwald, which is it's really a beautiful story, and I'm amazed that it hasn't gotten a lot more traction. I covered this on Film Week as well, and it's a really touching story about Julius Rosenwald, who was an amazing philanthropist and who teamed with Booker T. Washington to try to bring the Jim Crow South out of its educational downward spiral, and wound up essentially building more than 5,000 schools based on his belief in the Jewish doctrine of Tikkun Olam. And it's just a beautiful story of it's basically an American story. It's someone from one community and trying to sort of lift people up in another community because they're all part of the same country, and it's deeply touching, and especially when you realize how many people actually benefited from the schools that he funded. I mean, what it gave us Gordon Parks, it gave us Marian Anderson,
many of those
Langston
schools were in
Hughes,
the St. Louis area where I'm from.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't understand that there was this very look. I'm more than anything else, I'm Jewish. And there was this very specific relationship between the Black and Jewish communities that goes all the way back to the 20s, to that period, right after Reconstruction, particularly in the South.
Yeah.
Where there was a particular sort of commiseration between those two communities over a long period of time. And when you look at a lot of those HBCUs down there, and you look at those walls where they have the plaques of the donors that built them, you will find a lot of Greenfields and Goldbergs and blah, 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 and all that kind of stuff because of that relationship, which got complicated as we moved into the 60s.
Yep.
In the 70s. But it was there, and I sort of still lingers in a certain sort of sense.
And that takes us to first round features, Germans and Jews. History is the Memory of a People, which is a really interesting documentary that looks at the history of Jews in Germany. Obviously, the Holocaust and World War II is not the dominant theme here. It sort of launches from there, and how it has gotten us to a place today where the fastest growing Jewish population in Europe is in fact in Berlin. It is in Germany once again. And this is about the transformation, the post-World War II transformation of German society, which has gotten to a very, very different place. And even some would say with the refugee crisis, that Germany absorbing more refugees than anywhere else in Europe is in fact transforming German society. Some would say for the better, some would say for the worse. But it is growing pains in any case. I find this to be a very, very interesting film, especially because, as many people who've listened to the podcast any period of time know, my mother was German and was a World War II refugee. And one of the things that I've always remembered growing up, my mother grew up in a distant part of Prussia and Pomerania, on a little farm far away from everything before the Eastern Front collapsed and they had to flee. And my mother used to always say she never saw a Jewish person until she was probably about 8 years old, and she went to the big city nearby for shopping or school or whatever it was, and then saw one person there who was wearing the star. And that was my mother's first exposure. So she didn't grow up in a Germany that was in a part where she was exposed to the Jewish population of Germany. However, growing up, every single time, I remember so well. I'm gonna start to cry if I get it. But I remember growing up, every single time my mother saw somebody with a concentration camp tattoo, she'd put her arm around him and she'd talk to him, and there was this amazing bond because they could all say they remembered Germany when. They had like a common bond between them, and it was always deeply affecting to me, and I never forgot that.
And in the same way, there's a certain sort of loss. Obviously, the concentration camps and the loss of entire families was a very specific thing that happened to that part of the Jewish community. But a lot of German people were driven out and lost everything.
My mother
I was going to say.
And 30 members of her family died in World War II as well.
So this, and this gets lost a little.
It does.
And the complications of the way we talk about that complicated history. But there you go. Rumble, Indians Who Rock the World, dude.
I really like this movie.
I love this movie.
I liked it a lot.
And I was a little bit embarrassed as a music guy, a lifelong music guy. My dad was a musician.
Did we cover this together on Film?
I think we did.
I think this was our week. I think it was.
I did not know that Robbie Robertson. I mean, I'm sorry.
I know.
There's just all these people on this screen. This is about the underlying connection between the Native American culture and community, their traditions and music, and how those traditions have a through line right through rock and roll, one that we usually sort of trace back to the African American community in a very specific sort of way. But they illustrate through rhythm and time and connections and overlap of communities and all kinds of stuff, how Native American beats, how Native American rhythms, and then the actual people. Link Ray, who I did know, but I mean, many people in this movie who I'm like, that's a Native American. I just had no idea. Blew my mind. Thank goodness for this documentary.
I agree.
Rumble, Indians Who Rock the World.
And then a couple more, and we'll wrap out the show. I'll do a couple here. I'll let you hit some of those. Betting on Zero. From Kino Lorber, really, really interesting doc that deals with where do you even go? Bill Ackerman is a hedge fund guy, and he is shorting Herbalife in this doc. Now I don't know where all this stuff is gone, but he's a big gnarly hedge fund high roller, and he thinks Herbalife is a criminal scam, a total Ponzi scheme. And so he's shorting it, and this is essentially about that high stakes Wall Street stuff that goes on, and it's make up your own mind about Herbalife, but it's about really high stakes games. When you're dealing with people's money, they're millions and millions and millions of other people's money, and you're gambling it on the idea that one company is going to have the regulators come down and crush it. I mean, this is high stakes poker. This is as high stakes as it gets. So it's a really interesting doc.
It's particularly interesting because there was a murder that was involved in the whole Herbalife thing. Anyway,
it's good.
It plays
and,
through.
and then lastly, The Lost Worlds of Jerry Anderson. Jerry Anderson is one of my heroes. He is kind of like Gene Roddenberry. He's like Gene Roddenberry, but not. Thunderbirds, UFO, Space 1999, Captain Scarlet, all that Super Marionation stuff. It's fantastic. This is from MPI, and this is an absolutely terrific just tribute doc. It just
lost Jerry a couple of years ago, maybe.
I know.
Something like that.
It's a great tribute. It's a great tribute to all this stuff, and you even see scenes from Here Comes Candy, which was, which is a thing of his that had never been shown before. Dick Spanner, all this unknown stuff, unseen stuff, and of course Space 1999. It's just really, it's great, it's terrific. So a lot of fun. The Lost Worlds of Jerry Anderson, you're gonna have a blast.
Yeah. Can't go wrong with that. Want me to do this real quick?
Yeah, just knock one out.
Real quick. Dawson City, Frozen in Time, filmed by Bill Morrison. This is an interesting story. So, a whole cache, over 500 films from the teens and 20s, mostly silent area films, were found stashed away in this frozen vault in the Yukon in the city of Dawson.
Fascinating.
There's a reason why they're there, and a perfectly logical reason, actually, why they're there. Because they were subarctic, sort of frozen. These nitrate films were well preserved. So lots and lots of films, several films that were thought to have been lost to history, were found and revived and are in this movie. It's just absolutely extraordinary. Just one of those things, a happenstance. What are you going to do?
All right, and with that, it is done. We are off for another week, and we will see you guys back next week. Which I think probably the week after that we'll do a summation of the LAFCA awards.
Okay.
I think we're gonna record next week's show before the awards. So in 2 weeks we'll have a summation. Tim will give us a lowdown on the awards show, and we will see you guys next week.